All right, so let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to add more functionality to this slideshow area, because right now it's all hard-coded in. So first of all, first thing I'm going to do is I want to get this all on one line, this data cycle information. I personally prefer that it's all on one line, and I think it becomes a little bit easier later when we're looking at our source code to see it all. If you like it on separate lines, then that's fine. You can leave it that way. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. The next thing that I'm going to do is I actually don't really want to have a scrolling horizontal effect, and I'm going to change some of these values up. And I'm just going to copy and paste a couple of things, and you'll notice that I'm going to add another thing too. And what I did was I'm going to use a fade out cycle effect. So this is what the FX stands for. And then I want the cycle speed to be about 1500. And I want the data cycle timeout to be about 4000. So it's going to happen a lot more slowly. And if you want to save that, you can test it. And let's do a refresh. And then you can see that it stays on there for a little bit longer and it fades out. It's a little bit more gradual. That's just something that I would prefer. Now the other thing is that if you want more information about all of those different effects and changes that you can possibly do, you can go back to the website and actually I want to go back to his main page, the main Cycle 2 page, and then there are a couple of links. There's this API link, and the API will show you a lot of different stuff. It explains how the options work. It shows you also, it has a table, of all of the different options that you can use and how the values work. And so, like for instance, if you looked at FX, you see that it takes a string value. This is the example of how it would look, but you can take fade, fade out, none, and horizontal or scroll horizontal. And so it's got all of these different options. So that's one thing that you can do. Another thing is I would recommend that you look at the FAQs. There's always a lot of really interesting information where also people will ask questions that you might have also had. Okay, so anyway, back to this. So those are the settings that I'm going to use. And then we're going to leave this div cycle overlay the way it is. And then we get down to here and you start to see the opportunity that you would have to build a loop. And so let's figure out what pieces and parts we need for that loop. Well, we need the actual web address for the image, and it would be for probably the medium-sized image, probably not the largest image. And then we also have the title, which we could use the title of our album, and then we have the description, which we could use alt text in. Okay, so that gives you some idea. So like if I were to take all of these things out, all these extra ones, and just leave the one image, then what we could start to do is think about building a loop here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start some PHP tags, and then down below it I will end the PHP. Okay, and what we've got here is, actually I don't want to end the PHP here. Let's just have the PHP ending here. Okay, because what I want to do is I want to start a for each loop. So for each, and then if you want to just copy what you've got up here, I mean, that's fine too. You could say for each image list as image, and then also we are going to need to create this alt text. Okay, so you might as well just copy what you already did up here. Let's copy that, and I'm just going to paste that right over my for each. Okay, and then what I've got now is I've got a loop. Let's just go ahead and do this so that you can see the end of the for each, and then I also want to tab this in because it's kind of sort of in the wrong place. So I've got the beginning of my for each loop with my alt text and stuff started, but I need to end it. I need to end my for each loop after the image, not after the image div, but after the image. So what I'll do then again is PHP, and I will put my ending for each symbol, and I'll say end for each. Okay, like this. And then now I don't have that ugly error message there anymore. And then now with my image, all I need to do is substitute in for the image source, I need to put in the file name. So let's figure out what file name we need. And again, if you want to look up at what we've already done here, you can see that you want the medium. So if we wanted to echo current gallery path medium raw URL encode image, we could take that and we could paste it here. Okay, and so that'll work to grab the image. And then for the title, you could look up here again and you could say, all right, well, let's just take the entire title, because that's going to be the title of the album that we're looking at. And then again, if you want to take the description and use the alt text for the description, you could grab that from here. It's very similar, okay? And then I'm going to just go ahead and terminate these two things. I didn't do that, terminate the alt. It's just a best practice. It's not absolutely necessary, but. And I'll save this, and let's just see what we end up with now. If we go back to our web page and we hit refresh, and you see now it's going ahead and it's looping through our existing stuff. And you see that this is kind of hard to read on top of our picture, so we might want to go in and change the CSS so that maybe this is a little darker, but also maybe that this is a little bit bigger. So let's see what we can do here. So jump back to my Dreamweaver and let's go find our style sheet, which is cycle 2 CSS. And the place that you want to look is you want to find the section for overlay. You could also do a find, but it's around line 47. And you can see that the overlay opacity is set to 0.5. I'm going to set it to like 0.9. And let's just see how that changes it. Go ahead and hit refresh. That's a little bit too dark. Okay. So we can jump back there and let's just try maybe 0.7 and see what 70% does. And that's a lot better. So that you can still see through it, but you can definitely read the words. And then something else that you might notice is that under this overlay, some of the pictures are kind of disappearing a little bit, and then some are a lot longer. And what's happening is that because they're not exactly all the same size, you're going to have some problems potentially with things that are a weird size. So that makes me think that maybe we should test some of our other slideshows. If I come down in my source code and I test other galleries, like maybe let's test the responsive design, responsive design gallery. Let's save that and let's just do a quick test. And let's see what happens if anything changes on all of these images. Because one of the things that I did remember is that I do have a long image somewhere in here. It's a vertically oriented image, and it's that one, but it looks like maybe that was the one that we modified, so maybe it's okay. But if you wanted, the other thing that you could also do to prevent some of those things from happening, if you did have something that was really, really big, is that you could go in and you could find your cycle 2 CSS and make sure that if you scroll up, go to the cycle slideshow, and you could go to the very end and you could add an overflow rule. Okay, so you're saying overflow is hidden. And then that way, anything that is too big for the slideshow, it won't pop out of the slideshow. So let's save that and make sure it didn't monkey with anything in a bad way. Okay, and so so far we're doing okay. And just let it keep going. And then you still see that there's some that are shorter. So what you'll notice that what the thing is going to do is it's going to find its largest picture and it's going to base the size off the largest picture. So the other thing that you might consider doing is if you wanted to make the background of the slideshow black, you could also do that so that you don't have that weird background color popping out. And so here it looks like we don't have a background color set, so we could do instead of maybe black, which is going to be super dark, maybe what we could do is like a, let's just see what gray does. So we can make the background of it CCC, and I don't know, that might not work either, but we'll see on the refresh on some of these next images. This one's okay. And we go to this next one, and it's not quite as bad. You could maybe make it a little bit darker. It's really up to you. So how much you want to adjust that, okay? All right, so this is going to sort of conclude this section, and the next thing that we're going to need to do is, if we look at our code, next thing what we're going to want to do is, we've got this big function in one page, but the thing is we wouldn't want to create this function every single page. What we'd want to do is pull it out and stick it in a single page called functions, where we have a bunch of different functions, and then we can include that functions page and then just call the functions here later down in the page. And so we're going to stop this video here, and then the next video I'm going to show you how you can create this function in a separate page and then just include it here. And the thing that that's going to do is, just as a heads up, is that it's also going to change the way that we have to deal with some of these JavaScript things. Because as I said before, if you were to call multiples of these in the same page, it's really very inefficient. It slows the page down tremendously, and it's really a very bad practice. So we're going to look at how we can fix that in some of the forthcoming videos.